are talking about keeping it together. Kirk thought that one up. It's his fault. We're mainly talking about relationships. Our relationship and how it pertains to us. So here's the disclaimer. We are not professionals. We don't counsel people. We're not, we've never written a book. We've read a couple books, but we are not professional marriage counselors. We're really not professional anything. But we have a really great relationship, and we're very thankful for each other, and so we are going to just share what we go through and how we're keeping it together while on the road. So if you're new to our channel and you don't know anything about us or what we're doing or any of this series, and this is your first video that you're ever watching, then let me give you just a small bit of history. So I'm Harvest, this is my husband Kirk, and you're catching our series called On the Road. And on the road we travel about once a week, and we do these little segments. Basically we're just talking, and we're inviting you guys in on the conversation. Some of our background is in August we will have been married 20 years. We have 7 children plus 1, and we decided late last year in 2020 that we were going to sell everything in Oregon and hit the road and look for our new forever homestead. There was a lot of things going into that. We've got a couple other videos that you should probably watch to get the history of that, including episode 1 of On the Road on why we decided to hit the road. But basically we packed up 3 cars, 2 dogs, 10 people, and our 12-foot travel utility trailer with all our stuff, and we hit the road May 6th, and we are still on the road. It's July 5th, and we're still happily married.
Yes, that's true.
So we thought we would get on here and just chat a little bit about kind of what keeps us together, what some of the techniques and things that we have learned over our 20 years of being married, and some of the things that we deal with, like each other.
Some of the people we deal with.
Yeah, we have to deal with these people. One of the things that we have done in our marriage to kind of keep things in balance and in check, where we have a list of things that we find very important. Some things that we always keep in the back of our mind, whether or not, they're in the forefront. Not always, but because we have kind of prioritized our relationships, I think that's helped keep our marriages strong. And in my opinion, it's stronger every day. We have our moments, but even in those moments, I don't feel like, oh, this is it. It's going to break us up. I've never had those kinds of moments in our relationship. So our priorities are God first, our marriage second, and our children and family after that. And I think that has been the key for us to, in our minds, constantly keep top priority, and then everything else really does fall into place after that.
These are definitely important. Like Harvest said, God first, our relationship, marriage second, and then family third. Those core priorities kind of help us evaluate and live through the rest of the different things that we think are really important in our marriage. So what we did is we took a look at some of the things, kind of like, it's like a top 10 list. I don't know how many there are, but we came up with a list of things that we think are really key, at least in our relationship, that have helped us be strong, maintain a strong and healthy marriage. So, how do you why don't you read those off, and we can talk about a few of them, kind of going a little bit more in depth.
Okay. So some of the things that we've done in our marriage is we've always been dream builders. So we've always thought of the things that we wanted to accomplish and what are exciting to us. So right now it's this big adventure and also finding a homestead. And so that leads us to this adventure. We've been adventurers our whole marriage. Even if that meant adventures at home, because there was a lot of time where we weren't able to just leave and go places. We're not afraid to try new things at all. Faith is our top priority, and so we try to keep God as the center of the decisions that we make and how we deal with each other and how we parent. And then we're always seeking improvements, including with our relationship with our family. And then how we include our family in our adventuring. And then we try to laugh often. Humor is a big part of our relationship. We try to laugh at each other regularly.
So the one that first came to my mind was adventure, and maybe it's because when I asked Harvest to marry me, those words were kind of in my spiel, my little selling point. Hey, stick with me and we'll do this. No, I don't remember verbatim what my words were, but they had something to do with I want to adventure the rest of my life with you. I want to take adventures and just do things. And so that's always been at the very heart of our marriage from the very beginning. And so, adventure can come in a lot of different forms. Like Harvest said, it doesn't always mean piling the kids in the car and taking a cross-country trip. Sometimes it just means, let's plant a garden in the backyard. Or, let's buy 40 chickens. See how that goes.
Which we've done, by the way.
Let's buy ducks and stick them in the bathtub because
it's too cold outside.
It's too cold outside. Any number of things. Let's have lots of kids. Let's be foster parents. Let's adopt a child. Let's bring people into our house who don't have a place to live. I mean, we've done a ton of different things over our lives that have been definite adventures, and they're not always these fun, massive vacation type things. They're just because we are adventurers, and we want to never feel like we're boxed in a corner or have all these limitations on us, and we can't do this because of that. I tend to be a little bit more limiting in that regard. Harvest is a little bit more of a free thinker in that way.
I'm a rebel.
She's a rebel, yeah. So, but I think we're a good balance in that, because there are a lot of things, honestly, I probably would not have tried without being married to this amazing adventurer at heart. But together we're a great combination, because there are a lot of things that we've been able to do I don't think I would have done individually otherwise. So yeah, adventure is definitely a big one, and it keeps things new. It keeps things exciting. It kind of keeps you guessing, and I'm okay with that. 20 years into the marriage, and a lot of people don't make it that long. So there are a lot of marriages that don't last to 20 years. There's a lot that don't last to 2 years. And I don't know that I can pinpoint it to just one thing, but I know for us that's definitely kept things fresh and exciting. And I believe that is important in marriage, because after you get things kind of figured out, you get to a rut. Your jobs and family and kids to school, making dinner, the whole thing. It's super easy to get in a rut, and if there's anything I detest, it's being in a rut. I do not like it, and so fortunately we like doing crazy things. So So it works out pretty good. A couple of other things. These two we thought of initially separately, but they actually kind of go hand in hand. And one of them is faith. And I'll talk more about that in a second. And then the other is always seeking improvement. Also, that's kind of not being in a rut. So it kind of blends over a few different things. Faith can go two different ways. Faith, like I was saying, this is a faith in God. So when I have a faith in God, I have faith in His provision, faith in His ability to see me through anything. The fear doesn't really have a place. It doesn't stand a chance because faith overcomes it. When I talk about faith as maybe religion, or just faith as putting to practice the things that I believe, that relates to improving things in our married life. So because of my faith, my belief in God and belief in His principles and putting those to work, part of exercising that faith is improving. I don't want to stay the same. I don't want to, be stuck in that rut. And as that relates to relationships and marriage, if there's something I need to improve on, and I know Harvest feels the same way, we tackle it, we work on it, we figure out, what's the problem, what kind of led to it? Can we get to the root of it? How do we fix it? What does the Bible have to say to it, about it? And then make a conscious, concerted effort to fix it. And, if you've been married longer than, a few days, that's a lot easier said than done. Because when especially if you've been married for 20 years, you're suddenly realizing, gosh, I think there's something I need to work on. Well, you've had 20 years of marriage to, discover what this thing is, and now all of a sudden try to change it. And sometimes it takes a long time to fix things and work on things. So, in any case, changing things and being in a constant state of improvement shows the other person that you are invested in the relationship. You are concerned about making sure that you are the best person that you can be. And rather than, hey, you got to work on this, and you do this, and you do that, and here's something that, from 10 years ago that you still haven't fixed. It's not about that. It's not about the two-way street. It is a two-way street, but in this regard, it's all about you. How can I fix me? What is there within me that needs to change, and how can I work on that? That is not self-serving. That is love, and that is something that I feel absolutely critical in establishing a long-term marriage.
I think it also means being someone who is a Christ follower. Jesus had a very specific way that He dealt with people, and a love for people that went just beyond being obviously selfish. He wasn't a selfish person when He was on the earth. He considered others. And when you relate that not only to marriage, but in just dealing with other people, you work really hard at considering others first. And that is something that we have and still work on. We've been working on it and still work on it. We consider each other first when it comes to decisions that we make, comments that we make, interactions that we have. How will this impact the other person? How can I make sure that I am being considerate of them? Am I taking into account how they would feel about it? And then will it benefit the relationship or not? And I think we both think that way, not necessarily consciously, but we've gotten into the habit of being very mindful so that our decisions are made with not only our relationship in mind, but everybody that we're around. And then we're constantly seeking after God. And I think that is the key to everything that we do, all the decisions that we make, and how we communicate with each other. And it's good.
So life is funny, and it should be funny. I think God has a sense of humor. And if you've been in a church service lately, I'm sure your pastor at some point has said, turn to your left or right, and you'll see how much of a sense of humor God has. So that's really true in marriage too, in relationships. You definitely have to have a sense of humor, not just to see the funny things in life, but to not take yourself too seriously. That's something that I've struggled with, and I think I'm getting better over the years. But if you take yourself too seriously, you're going to find yourself being easily offended. And our country, probably the world, but at least our country, is full of people who are very easily offended and also take up offenses for others that are really not theirs to take up. Yeah, I just find that those people don't have much of a sense of humor. It's just, everything is so serious and dull and cut and dry, and you just can't go through life like that. So having a sense of humor, being funny, finding the funny things in life really help you, especially when you've got some difficult situations. It'll teach you to look on the bright side if nothing else. And even if there's not anything funny, what's the good that comes out of it? Always be looking for the good. And we know the Bible says merry heart does good like a medicine, and that's really true. Laughter is good for the soul, good for the body, good for the mind, and the spirit. So try to find the funny things that you have in life, and don't be afraid to try to be funny. I guess if you think, oh gosh, I'm not a funny person, that's okay. Don't stress about it. But I mean, just if you can't be funny, look for the funny things in other people, especially your spouse, who's funny. And if you can laugh about things together, then that will definitely bring some more enjoyment. I don't know. What do you think about humor?
I totally agree with all of it. When you take life so seriously that you can't find the humor in things, then there is a part of you that doesn't enjoy as much of life as possible. And for a marriage, if you don't enjoy your spouse, if they're not funny to you, if they don't bring you laughter, if you don't find them hilarious, then it makes things very difficult. And you're easily offended. I don't want to live my life like that. So, honey, is it always fun and games, adventures, and laughter?
Always. It's always a bed of roses and sunshine and rainbows and unicorns. Every day. That's why we made it 20 years, right? I mean, who doesn't?
No. False. So how do we deal with disagreements and things that come up? Well, we have a few nevers. And I don't know that they were ever spoken, like we are never going to do this, we're never going to do that. But we have a few nevers that just are part of the way we communicate. And one of them is we never yell. We've gotten frustrated to the point where I'm sure we could have yelled, but we never raise our voice in that way.
Except for when she can't hear what I'm saying, then I have to yell, and then I sound angry. And then there's a disagreement when there wasn't one before. Just kidding.
That may have happened, but I'm not kidding. We never put each other down. That just doesn't get anywhere, and it belittles both of you. And so
either when talking to each other or when we're in others' company apart from each other.
True. A side note, that really, really super bothers me. My husband is not my children's babysitter, and he's not an idiot. And I have never appreciated those kinds of conversations. So I am very conscious about how I speak about my husband when I'm around other people. I would much rather build him up than put him down. We've talked about things that have happened, but it's usually, if I would not say that in front of my husband, then it does not need to come out of my mouth. So if I'm going to tease my husband about anything, it wouldn't be something that I would ever be embarrassed about in teasing with him, and he would have a good sense of humor about it or whatever. But even then, that's pretty rare for me to do because it's disrespectful. And I would not want him to talk about me like that when I'm not around. We listen more than we talk, except for when we're on camera. Because you guys are real quiet. We listen more than we talk. When we're talking to each other and we're having, especially in the midst of a disagreement, that does make for some awkward silences sometimes, but we are always listening to each other. I think for me, rather than saying something that I'm going to either have to apologize for later, or because it was a knee-jerk reaction, oh, that hurt me, and so I'm going to say this, I am careful about how I say things and when I say them. So if he's in the middle of completing a thought, from his point of view, I am careful to listen so that I get it all, so that I don't miss anything. And then also so that I don't like interrupting. So I am listening for everything. When he's done, I will sometimes pause and gather all of my thoughts so that I'm not just reacting. We both work really hard. I think it's hard for me. I will admit it's really hard for me to do this, but we're both pretty quick to admit when we've been wrong. And we're working actively to teach our children this as well. It's really a humbling place to be to say, you're right, I was wrong. I reacted this way and I shouldn't have. Will you forgive me? It's really, really difficult to do that. But we both work really hard at doing it because it's important. If I've been wrong and the conversation is over and I didn't apologize, then really, technically, the conversation's not over. I need to find a way and a time when I can come back and say, I was wrong here, I said these things harshly, or I was wrong and I admit it, and I humble, however you need to word it, but I'm sorry. Because that is a place where you both can come to knowing that the other person is willing to give. It's important to be that way. Do you have anything to say to that? The other thing is being willing to finish the conversation. I kind of touched on that just a second ago, but being willing to finish it. Sometimes, and I've seen it more often than not, you say something, you make your point, and then you leave the room. Maybe for dramatic effect. You have to go back and you have to reiterate what the other person has said to be clear and make sure that you both have ended on the same page. Because sometimes what I thought I heard is not what he said. And so finishing the conversation is important. Now, sometimes that can feel like you're beating a dead horse, but I would much rather walk away with clear communication than walk away confused or hurt even. I don't want to walk away with hurt. So you have to be willing, for us, we have to be willing to finish our conversations. And I think we do. I think we are really good about making sure that the conversation is finished so that we're on the same page when we're done with it. And then, for me personally, I am really careful about not carrying over old hurts and things. And I think that goes back with, finishing the conversation. Because if we can finish our conversation and that chapter of whatever disagreement, whatever hurt, whatever miscommunication is done, then I can, with a good attitude, not bring it back well, you did this before, because that is just asking for hurt and bitterness to build up in your spouse. And for us, it's really, really important that I not carry over what happened in a previous conversation, even if it's something that reoccurs. And I learned that early on when I was young. I was married once before, and I learned that early on and how to do it, and how to do it correctly, because it is important to make sure that you are cherishing your spouse before yourself. And so when there is a hurt that I'm carrying around with me, I'm doing is thinking about me. He did this before, and I'm so upset, and so now I'm gonna make sure and hold on to that, so that when we argue again, I got a good zinger for him. And so I work really hard at not doing that. That is important to me.
And that's why it's important to finish your conversations, because if you leave things unfinished, you think, oh, we'll just pick this up tomorrow. Well, guess what? Work happens, life happens, and you kind of forget about it. Until, guess what, it comes up again, you realize, oh, you know what, we never figured this out, and now it's an even bigger issue. Or maybe that's 10 years later. So that's really why it's important to finish your conversations, because if you don't, you can hold on to those things. It doesn't matter if you're the man or the woman. If you haven't resolved an issue to meet some sort of mutual satisfaction, and you think, oh, I'll just do that tomorrow, we'll pick up our conversation tomorrow. You may be able to do it, but I think most of the time what's going to happen is life starts in the morning, and you forget about it. You wake up tired and cranky, and you don't want to deal with it, and it winds up normally being a bigger issue than it should have been. So that all ties into making sure that you finish resolve whatever it is that needs to be resolved. Time doesn't always heal all wounds. Conversation heals wounds sometimes, because you gotta talk it out.
Being humble.
Yeah, being humble. We've talked a lot about kind of our own marriage and things that have really worked for us. It's funny, we looked for a kind of little title of this one, Get It Together, and I don't know if you remember, honey, but we actually had some people pray over us when we were first married, within the first year or two of being married. And one of the things they said is, you will be, you'll have an amazing marriage if you learn how to get it together. And that has always stuck with me. I thought that was so impactful. And so, how does it relate to our trip? How do we do this while we're on our trip? Well, because we've had the things in place for so long, the things that we value in our marriage, and always trying to improve, obviously the sense of adventure part of it, those have been a part of us for so long that now that we're in a situation where what our normal daily lives consisted of logistically is gone, we have a strong enough marriage so that when things happen while we're on the road, outside of our environment, outside of our comfort zone, into the unknown, anything relationally between us, I feel that we can handle, because we've learned how to handle it. It's not this big blow up relationally, plus there's nothing else secure around us. We're all flying by the seat of our pants, basically. So I'm really grateful for the fact that we've been able to work hard at making sure our relationship is strong. And there's a good amount of eros love, there's agape love, there's phileo love, there's all of different types of love that we have in our relationship, but none of it's self-seeking. It's always the other party seeking. And because we have that at the forefront of our relationship, doesn't matter what situation we're, what state we're in, how many kids we don't have or do have in our van at the time, it works out. It works out good. It ultimately works out great. So, little tip for you. It's not necessarily a marriage book, but if you're looking for tips on how to improve communication skills, it relates to anything from work to friends to estranged family. So this book is called Crucial Conversations, and I don't remember who wrote it, but I had to go through this course. I opted to go through this course as a work thing a few years ago for a former employer, and man, it was impactful. It was so great. And so if you're looking for some tips on how to have conversations, even the difficult ones, this book will help you. It's got a workbook. It's got a little workbook in it. It's got some AV, like a little CD that comes with it. Anyways, I highly recommend you dig into that and absorb some of that information. It will help you in literally every communication that you have in life. And of course, if you haven't read the Bible lately, you need to dig into that pretty deep too, because that's the foundation of it all. Okay, final words. So, On the Road has been awesome. You guys, thanks for hanging out with us and learning with us as we're learning too. And make sure that you, if you like this video, feel free to share it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on Instagram as well as MeWe and Twitter. So we've got a few different social medias out there. And like, subscribe, share it. We'd love to have any comments or answer any questions you guys might have, so feel free to drop those in the comments below. But other than that, God bless you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll talk with you next time.